Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy, the Mana Shark here, and today we're gonna be playing some standard. Once Arena loads up, we're gonna be rocking one of the decks that made a huge appearance at the Mythic Championship. We're gonna be playing some Esper Hero. It's an interesting deck, not so much my speed. I love control, but this is a little bit weirder in that it's more on the mid-range to control end of things. Maybe more like how fairies used to feel, with some aggressive elements to it. So let's just run through the deck real quick. We have 4 Hero of Precinct 1, a card that can just hit the battlefield early, control the board, blocks red really well. In the mirror match, it's a huge threat. 2D Spark, just a great removal spell against a lot of problematic permanents. Opponents to fairies, Wilderness Reclamation, and Nissa. Nissa's a huge threat. It deals with all of that. Thought Rager, picking cards out of your opponent's hand. Typically how control decks win games is through card advantage, and Thought Rager picking apart a plan can really do that, especially when you don't have the other cards in your hand to deal with a certain kind of card in your opponent's hand. Maybe they have a Nissa and you don't have a proper removal spell for it, or a creature that you don't have a removal spell for, or a spell you can't counter, whatever it is. Like sometimes you have to pick apart your opponent's hand, and Thought Erasure gets that done. Tyrant Scorn, just a really great removal spell on early game creatures. Narset, Parter of Veils. This card is right now just defining formats. It almost will always find something off of its -2, and sometimes you'll even have several options. It gets so much value, and even when it sticks around with like 1 loyalty, it's super relevant, shutting down your opponent's extra draws, especially in control mirrors. We have 4 Teferi Time Reveler. This guy is super annoying and probably actually ruining standard at the moment, and it's unassuming but at first, but like he really does pull his weight in just drawing cards and getting some extra value. You can actually bounce your own things, and you have we'll go through a couple of things that you actually wouldn't mind bouncing. We have 1 Mortify to deal with problematic artifacts, enchantments, and creatures. Experimental Frenzy, and just Wilderness Reclamation are great enchantments to deal with. I didn't mean artifacts. I was just a little mixed up. Great removal spell. A lot of control decks are really shaving on copies of it, and I really like how this list has 1 of them. We have 3 Oath of Kayas, a solid removal spell, a way to gain life, protects your planeswalkers. If you land this against red, all of a sudden, even though sometimes red does want to finish off your planeswalkers, it might put them in a spot where if they attack your planeswalker, now you're actually getting enough life to be further back into the game. And it's a great target to bounce back with Teferi. We have 3 Elite Guard Mage, just a solid threat that replaces itself. And, especially in control mirrors, when you just have more threats, it tends to work out really well, being the control deck with more threats. And oftentimes in these control mirrors, in previous standards, you would actually end up sideboarding in more creatures in games 2 and 3. And this is almost like it's pre-sideboarded in, along with 2 Hostage Takers, fantastic against the mid-range matchup. Sometimes you can snag an artifact, but most of the time you're just snagging a creature and replaying it. It's a little awkward against Nissa's a huge threat in standard right now, and it's a little awkward against her. It does like take away the land essentially, and they can get it back, and it won't have any counters on it. But it's not a card I'm crazy about. But I could see the merit in it, especially in the mirror match. We have 4 Teferi. He's 5 mana, but he's actually 3 mana. He's the card that really takes the game away, and if he just sticks on the battlefield for too long, it's lights out. We've seen this for a good while now. 1 Command the Dreadhorde. This card, if you are in the control mirror, if you're the one to draw it first and resolve it, you will win the game. Drawing it second is abysmal. And it's going to get back your Hero of Precincts 1, Narset, Teferi, all these things, and even your opponent's stuff. It's really good. And then the lands are fairly standard: 4 Watery Grave, 4 Catacomb, 4 Chapel, 4 Godless Shrine, 4 Hallowed Fountain, 4 Glacial Fortress, a Swamp, and Island. And standard right now, this is beautiful freaking mana. And we're about to get Scrylands, which are current, like, until rotation, they're not even going to see play because we have, well, they might see, like, minor play, but, like, we have such solid mana in standard right now. And, yeah, this is like, a perfect example of just how good control is right now. It can adapt so much to the point where, like, Absorb isn't even played anymore, and you can really just do whatever you want with your control decks. And this is the deck that a lot of people took to the Mythic Championship. And our sideboard plan, we have Duress for the mirror matches for decks that cast a lot of spells. The other control decks, blue-green, Nexus. Argyl's Bloodfast in other grindy matchups. This card can just steal a game if you resolve it. 2 Elder Spell, largely for the mirror match, also for Nissa's. Dovin's Veto, same matchups that you'd want Duress, and the fact that it can't be countered itself is pretty ridiculous. D-Spark, fantastic against Nissa in the mirror matches. You can see a common theme here. Cry the Carnariums against the really aggressive decks, White Weenie and Red Deck wins. Same with Kaya's Wrath, but also for the more mid-range builds. Enter the God Eternals for the really aggressive decks for the mid-range builds. Gains you life, gives you a creature, like, so much value. You do have to be careful against red. You don't want to mill them usually. Usually you want to mill yourself there. You don't want to accidentally mill, like, a risk factor or something if they're rocking those. And also, if they haven't turned on their 1/2s into 2/2s yet. You know, there's little things here and there with Enter the God Eternals that's good to know in which matchups you should be milling your opponent or yourself, because sometimes it does matter. Like, obviously against Phoenix, you never mill your opponent. Command the Dreadhorde, second one for the control matchups and for other matchups that really just get super grindy. So let's just run this deck in a match, feel it out. I played a couple of games with it just so I wasn't, like, going in completely blind, but I think it'd be nice to play it live, really run through the decision making and see maybe I'm playing this deck poorly, or maybe this just isn't a great deck. And I know it sounds ridiculous, right? Calling a deck that not good, but there is a deep history in decks being taken to Pro Tours, what Mythic Championships used to be, that were one-hit wonders. You take, like, Naya Lightsaber to a tournament, and it would take the whole thing down. It would be so geared to beating Jund or something. In that case, it was so geared towards beating Jund, destroyed the tournament, and completely fell off the grid. It was a complete one-hit wonder, just zeroing on a meta, and maybe that's what this deck is. Maybe it was zeroing in on an anti-control meta with a decent burn matchup. But we're gonna have to feel it out. So this hand, it's very flooded here. If we knew we were playing against a control deck, it might not be actually that terrible. Well, in old standard, new standard, there's so many early planeswalkers, you still couldn't keep it. But old standard, you actually would be able to keep a 5-lander if you knew your opponent was on control. And this hand's not good either. Actually worse. I'd rather have the early interaction, but we kind of have to keep it here. Going down to 5, I'm willing to risk it. If we're playing against a control deck, which is kind of, I think, fairly likely, from my experience in the metagame here, I think we can keep this. Even though, all right, and we're going to keep this D-Spark. Even though it doesn't deal with the early threats, it deals with a lot of things. But yeah, we just have to hope our opponent is not on this, like, insanely early aggro deck. Okay, yep, it's a control mirror. There's no reason to hold up anything, really, or bluff anything. Also, our life doesn't really matter either, unless he's on hero as well. This by no means, I don't think this deck feels like Caw-Blade as much. I could see the comparisons. So yeah, let's take a peek at what our opponent's doing. All right, so we have Elder Spell, Narset, Bellhaunt, and Kaya, Oath of Kaya. We can ignore this existence for the most part. It is relevant and can hit our planeswalkers. Bellhaunt's going to get automatic value. Narset's going to give us a little bit of issues. And Elder Spell can 1-for-1 with its Teferi and pump a planeswalker. We're going to take this Narset here. He's about to land it. And it's super duper great against us, especially when our hand has, you know, 2 Teferis in it. And Tyrant Scorn's pretty terrible against control decks, so we're going to bin that. I like the stained glass. I actually haven't worked on these yet. All right, so knowing what our opponent has, it's probably not good to just immediately minus Teferi. He is going to be playing Bellhaunt, so that makes things a little bit awkward. If we play Teferi minus draw a card, he could play Oath of Kaya, kill it, but we still like made even. He's not going to Elder Spell. He'll Oath of Kaya it. If he plays Bellhaunt, we have, or yeah, let's drop Teferi. It's a little awkward, but if he lets it stick, we plus it a little bit. If he doesn't, but yeah, Teferi is part of the reason why control decks are just dropping counters. Like, we're not even playing negates anymore. Like, it's he is probably ruining standard, honestly. He does keep some of like other stupid things in check, like Nexus, but he's pretty gross. And heck, some Nexus decks are even playing him now and going Bant, so indirectly causing a lot of problems in standard. All right, so we can pitch the Dispark for Bellhaunt, but Narset is like a longer value play. Both Teferis. I think we have to keep the Teferis, and we could keep Dispark with the intent of protecting a Teferi fairly well. It feels terrible pitching a Narset, though. But yeah, let's pitch a Narset. That might be the wrong play. We're gonna up Teferi and drop our own Teferi, knowing that an Elder Spell's coming. Our opponent might be able to just like play a Planeswalker Elder Spell and make it ginormous, which is certainly a play in the mirror match to be very conscious about. All right, if we despark the Bellhaunt, like, we want this off the battlefield anyway, and he'll probably just, if he goes Planeswalker Elder Spell, I will cry, but despark wouldn't be able to interact with that well anyway, so. If he just Elder Spells 2 for 1s us, that's still sad, but like, we can manage. All right, we have Hero of Precinct 1. If we go Time Reveler Hero, he'll end up killing with Oath of Kaya fairly immediately, which isn't terrible, but I kind of like just jamming down this next Teferi here and just trying to accumulate value from it as fast as possible. That's a good draw. Problem with Hero against like a straight Esper deck is that it does turn on his removal spells. And here's his Teferi. Okay, so I think we could play Hero plus Teferi, and this way we'll pretty much he'll Oath of Kaya. We could threaten a Teferi with a single token. We could play Narset and just like shut down Teferi's activating, but then he'll just Oath of Kaya it. But then we can threaten it later with Precinct 1. It's a tricky situation. I think this might be the better play of the two. Just because you do trade-off cards. Yeah, so we can grab the Teferi we knew we had. More if I would just deal with Oath of Kaya, but like there's no Teferi quite yet to deal with it. I'd rather just get that. And we can either play the Time Raveler or sandbag it. Now we have a second Teferi in our hand, and we have a lot of lands. We're likely to draw one. Let's just get value at it. All right. Next turn we can threaten his Teferi with like hero plus guard mage. That's 3 creatures he has to deal with. Ooh. Okay. I guess, given that he's a threat on the floor, on the ground, maybe we just keep the flyer. Also, they both died at Oath of Kaya, but yeah, having a blocker does ruin things a bit. No Oath of Kaya on the Narset though. Let's Narset first. Wow, we got nothing. That's very rare. Marina's bugging up, man. Won't let me pick done. I found that button has been a little iffy lately. So if you play Guard Mage, he'll just blow it up with Oath of Kaya and then kill one of our Planeswalkers. If it's a Teferi minus, we get rid of Belhaunt and then deal. Yeah, neither way, we're in a little trouble with that Oath of Kaya. Let's just drop Elite Guard Mage here and see what we get. Oh, we got our own Oath of Kaya. Not bad. Finish off his Teferi. He'll still got the nice play of finishing off one of our walkers if he wants. Oh, wow. All right. He doesn't actually even have to do that. It's not even worth protecting our Teferi, right? Chump block with a dude or keep Teferi. Doesn't really matter. No blocks. All right, we ripped a Teferi that can immediately die if he Oath of Kaya something. So if we play Teferi, we're pretty screwed. We already played 2 Teferis. This would be Teferi number 3, and it would die fairly fast. But I think we still have to run it out there because I don't think this board state is changing until we draw into something. All right, we'll drop hero. And this way we could threaten a double block, which will be a reason why he kind of has to use Oath of Kaya if he wants to punch through and all right, so we can have each chump. Like we can just go that. We could just let Teferi die. Or we can double block Teferi dies. Which I think it's either that play or just let Teferi die. Or just double chump. It's hard. Yeah, I think we just double chump. Things are looking so grim for us. These Bell Haunts have been great. And like Tyrant Scorn can't actually kill it. Okay. Yeah, perhaps we were really stupid for not doing the double block and just letting Teferi die. And we're just stuck with 2 cards that we don't really care for. Like, yeah, Oath of Kaya could maybe kill some, like a Planeswalker or something, but that's usually after they activated it. So it's not really a value generator. And we have 2 3/4s that, even though we're at an absurdly high life total, don't do anything. So the play is to bounce back your own Oath of Kaya. Maybe he forgot about the Narset. Otherwise he would have sent some damage there. Alright, so if we Hostage Taker, we were short mana on Hostage Takering a Bell Hunt and then replaying it. So for now, we're just going to drop Oath of Kaya and just finish off Teferi. Come on, dude. Command the Dread Horde would be amazing right now. Oh, of course. Alright, let's just scoop it up here. So we're against the control deck. How do we board? Dovin's Veto in, D-Spark in, Command the Dread Horde, Elder Spell, Bloodfast, Duress. Okay, what comes out? Mortify. I don't really think we care about Oath of Kaya, so like we can put it out for now. Oath of Kaya can stay in, but also can't stay out. Tyrant Scorn's pretty terrible. I think we keep like our hero and stuff in, like our creature package. Hostage Taker. What is there to hostage take? Just Basilica Bell Haunt, right? Perhaps it's an argument, actually a better argument, to get Enter the God Eternals. If it's just like it's pretty sick to do either one. Let's take them out for now. Oath Teferi? I don't know. Maybe we just like take out yeah, Oath of Kaya. Actually, D-Spark? No, D-Spark's good. It deals with big Teferi. Alright, let's just remove Kaya, just so we're ready to hit done if we need to. But I do want to see if I could fit it back in. Like, I feel like this might be the matchup to play hero, but can see not rocking it. I don't know, let's just run it right back. Maybe you could slim the Teferis down, even though he's great in the matchup. But like without, maybe go like 2-2 with 2 him, 2 Oath of Kaya. All right, well, we'll keep this 7. fairly decent start. We'll go turn 2 hero. And he's going to take our D-Spark or Narset. Yep. And, all right, we got to command the Dread Horde. So as long as it doesn't get ripped out of our hand, if we just resolve it first, we'll probably win. Of course, we need targets for it and everything, but throughout the game, there's going to be some targets. Elder Spell's a pretty nice pickup here. We do really need to hit our 4th land drop. That's super important. And we did. So let's swing in for 2. He might actually not like have a reasonable answer for hero. Get cantripped off guard mage. Hopefully we don't see a Basilica Bellhaunt, because that also stalls up the ground well. And, you know, 2-for-1's us, of course. So we'll pitch Drowned Catacomb, I think. And then we'll despark it. Rip his soul out, you know. Dominate the board a little. I don't think he has... maybe he put in some Kai's Wraths against us. I guess there's a little bit of a dancing game as to whether or not I keep in Hero of the Spark. Hero of the Precinct 1. Mixed up with names today. Oh, he put in Cry. Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, Cry didn't actually value us at 1-for-1. And we got to get in some good damage, which is relevant if we actually do kill him with damage, but chances are it's just a normal 1-for-1, and the damage we dealt is basically irrelevant. He's probably going to take command, unless he's banking on us. Yeah. Okay, we're going to Lands a Teferi here. Maybe it's going to get Disparked, or a Dovin's. Yep. This is like the gravy on top of all of the BS that Control's been getting, is just Dovin's Veto in a mirror match is... used to have to pay 4 mana for that effect. In, like, yeah, it hit everything, but like an uncounterable counterspell is some dangerous territory. Okay, if we play Teferi, we can Teferi tuck his Teferi. We can Elder Spell. Huh. Too bad we can't go Teferi and Elder Spell. Yeah, let's just knock Teferi off the table. Maybe I should be waiting to do that whole, like, get the Teferi emblem as fast as possible sort of thing with these Elder Spells, but we're doing fairly well on damage, I think. Oh, he's rocking a Guildgate. All right, we got a hero. Not enough mana to play that and Teferi. But nonetheless, 1 threat on the board as a creature is good enough. Like, he might just have... if he gets a Wrath, he might just have to spend a Wrath on this. But yeah, he is ahead on cards. We're ahead on board. Liliana does ruin things, like he could just mine us right now. We got a nice rip off the top. And yeah, we're gonna drop Hero first to get some slight value here. We would like to see that Liliana off the table. That being said, we have a flyer, which is nice. I'll probably just take the damage from him. Okay, he's going to probably just choose Command the Dreadhorde or it's a fairy. Yep. So now our win condition is his Teferis, most likely, from Command the Dreadhorde. All right, we're going to rip whatever's left out of his hand. Sweet. We could slowly finish off the Liliana or hit his face. I like hitting the Liliana. I think given that we can finish off the Liliana next turn. We'll eat any damage this turn, and then if once Liliana's off the table, then we can start trading away tokens and doing all that. All right, so we're gonna smack Liliana, and now we can Teferi, get a token, minus Teferi, bounce Guard Mage, hit a Duress, which is more than likely blanked, get some nice value. But we can do it on his draw step. We could duress him if Teferi stays. He plays a Vraska's Content on it, though. Okay. Maybe he's afraid of us having Bell Haunts. So we could quadruple block it and get it off the table, which isn't so bad. Because we're not going to send these tokens in anyway. So if we block with 4 tokens, we lose 3 and he loses Bell Haunt. I think that's fair. Especially if he has another Cry of the Carnarium in his deck. Can't be terribly greedy. Alright, we got a nice pickup with Dovin's Veto. And most likely anything he plays we would want to counter. So we're just going to be playing it. See? Now we have another token and we could trade with the zombie. If he sends him in. Alright, he scoops. So now, even if we don't actually sideboard anything, we should take some time to make it look like maybe we sideboarded a lot and maybe like we moves around our heroes or whatever. Yeah, so Basilica Bell Haunt is certainly a threat. Is it worth Hostage Taker or Enter the God Eternals in there as like a counter answer? Possibly. But no, I can't see boarding out any of these cards against our opponent. The only card I could see maybe bringing in is just Oath of Kaya for those small planeswalkers. I mean, obviously we had a really good experience that game with our own Teferi. I wish Thoughtseize was in the format. That would have been nice. I know that definitely scares people, and it actually shouldn't be in this format at all. But maybe Thoughtseize would give rise to Like maybe it'd help out the black-green deck more. So it wouldn't just be for control decks, but obviously control decks would run it instead of Thought Erasure. Or in addition to Thought Erasure. So this hand's pretty... We're on the draw. If we get a black source, this hand is amazing. We do rock 26 lands. And a third land is just good. You know, given that we're on the draw, I'll keep this. I want to see what happens. I think it's fairly okay to keep it. Given that third land will just let us do at least Narset. But if we want to hit a swamp, like some sort of black land next turn, and then just go to town. Pick apart our opponent's hand. Grab the Teferi. Dovin's Veto on top. And we're going to get Thought Erasured. It's probably going to take Elite Guard Mage or Narset. Yeah, Elite Guard Mage is a pain in the side. And we'll go for... Well, yeah, he has Vraska's Content, so we'll go for Thought Erasure number 2. Grab the Command the Dread Horde. We do want to just hit more land drops, that's for sure. But we have enough in our hands, I think, for now. And the next turn we go Thought Erasure, Dovin's Veto. He's going to take Narset. Yep. Oh, wow. The 4th Thought Erasure. And yeah, if he plays a Planeswalker, we're going to veto it. We're going to go for this Thought Erasure here. Grab it. Teferi on top. Sounds sweet. And yeah, our goal is just to resolve that Teferi. And now we have Dovin's Veto. I almost said Danny DeVito. To hold up proper mana to secure Teferi. And if Teferi sticks on the battlefield, we don't win necessarily, but we're in solid shape. So yeah, our opponent scoops it up. So that match was a pain in the butt. It took like forever, but it showed us a little bit about, you know, Esper Hero. So let's pull the deck back up and talk about it just a little bit more. So overall, I think there's certainly some like hidden magic behind you know, the pro's guide to like sideboarding, right? There might be some interesting times where you bounce around between bringing in your hero of precincts 1s against control and pulling them out like in between games, and like all of a sudden you pull them out and your opponent kept in Cry of Carnarium and it's a dead card now, and stuff like that. Or you bring in Hostage Taker or take it out against, you know, for their Bell Hunts, and there's probably some like crazy flip-flopping to consider. Big fan of having the you know, Teferi of Time Reveler at 4. Like that's huge. At first I was actually not so crazy about this Teferi, but as I've played with it, as I've played against it a lot, as I've noticed that it just works really well bouncing your own Oath of Kaya, and the fact that this deck, that means triggering hero another time, that means bouncing back Elite Guard Mage. It's really great as a 4 of. And the strangest part is, I think the best counter for it, aside from red, which I did a video on, you should totally check it out, it is possibly just building a different control deck with a different build, right? I do really, really like this deck, and I think even though it's not my speed, I'm more of a traditional guy. I'm more of like not playing cards like Hero of Precinct 1 and Elite Guard Mage and Hostage Taker, and playing a very low threat control decks where my win con is basically just a fairy and Command the Dread Horde. But I could totally see the merit of, especially for mirror attack, of having Hero of Precinct 1, and especially in like red matchups where you have, these two cards are pretty solid against red, I'd imagine. And yeah, I think this list is pretty solid. I'll be sure to have it in the description, and I can totally see the allure to it as a viable option. Is it a one-hit wonder? Probably not, but I'm sure the metagame will change to a bunch of factors, and we might not see this deck in the coming weeks. I guess the most important thing for now is just to keep our eyes on things like SCG Opens and Grand Prix, Magic Fests, I almost said, Grand Prix, and just see how the metagame really adapts to recent tournaments. And with the release of Magic core set, we'll also see maybe a little bit of a shift. Usually it's not too impactful with the core set, and I don't think this core set will change things too much. But we might see some new decks popping up, and there are some fringe decks that might have picked up a tool or two. So with that being said, hope you enjoyed. Drop a like if you found this video helpful or interesting, or just fun to watch, and let me know what deck you want me to play next. This is Mana Shark, out.